Hey Nagios community, Nasan here, and we got a fun one today. We decided to go through the many years of Hollywood history and ask ourselves, can Nagios prevent that? And I think this video, quite honestly, was probably 15 million years in the making. We are going back and we are just letting you guys know that we could in fact prevent Jurassic Park from ever happening if you just use Nagios XI. I'm joined by Dylan in support. He's going to help walk us through just kind of some of the setup that would be needed in running a dinosaur park and making sure that should things go down.
I mean, rather than having sort of a international prehistoric disaster, you could just have a fun amusement park with dinosaurs.
Yeah, that's true. This would probably be the greatest support ticket you've ever seen find.
I think we might need to use a couple of extra entitlements for this one.
Yeah.
One issue per ticket. There's a bunch of issues, so we'll go through them.
So strap in, grab some extra case support tickets. We sell them by the 10-pack. And get ready. We're gonna dive in. The first thing we're gonna look at here is we got an employee who is getting a little needy with some of the IP here. Let's take a look.
Hey, what'd I touch?
They call that notification fatigue, right?
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Yeah.
So on one end, we got everything shutting down. We got a guy over in an embryo chamber stealing all your stuff. And Samuel L. Jackson can only say, "Hold on to your butts." That's all they're getting out of this right now. First and foremost, I mean, at least they have something monitored here in terms of the fences going down, which I get is part of something that Nedry set up so he could steal some stuff. But I'm wondering if you can kind of give some insight as to maybe not letting your entire IT infrastructure be centered around one dude.
Well, a little redundancy is probably good. They should maybe have access to a couple different people with root SSH access to their servers. You know, it wouldn't hurt to have like a clone of the server that you could just, if it's a virtual machine, you can just switch over, fail over, back up.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, like the big thing is like maybe someone should be monitoring the guy monitoring your stuff. Just a thought.
Yeah, you know, something like extremely secure access room should maybe just like send a SNMP trap every time someone scans their badge, just in case. You know, it's a good person going in, it's a shady person going in, it's just the guy who goes in there and wipes the inside of the glass of the of the secure area. You could set it up so that that card reader just sends a notification.
Yeah, I also feel like the fence failure thing here, like there's got to be a way to automate at the same time, like bringing the fences back up.
So we've got this fun thing called event handlers.
Tell me more.
And, you know, fence failure, fence failure, fence failure. Well, like at the point that it's gone critical status,
Yeah.
it could just execute a script that brings the fences back up. You know, simple shell script. Shell existed in 1993.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. We can roll to the next clip here.
The raptor fences aren't out, are they?
No, they're still on.
I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory, but we got doors that could be monitored. We got overrides that could be monitored. Like it does seem like you could just do passive checks. If something doesn't come back, you can assume it's been messed with. kind of insane to think that, like, I don't know. To me, it's interesting that a layman can look at this and be like, oh yeah, super easy. This dude can bypass everything, but like. To you, this is like your living nightmare of, please never set it up like this, for the love of God. Help me help you.
All of these physical barriers and structures, overrides, right? Ideally, they're all networked. Not ideally, they're all networked.
They are.
There's a central IT hub office where they're all networked. He's got some kind of terminal, a blue terminal, kind of vaguely PowerShelly. I don't know if PowerShell existed at this time even. Like a blue terminal.
Whatever.
Blue's hard on the eyes. Anyway. So it's all networked somehow, right? And so you've got localized controls and you've got networked controls. Yeah. You could set up passive checks going back. A nice thing about passive checks is you could set freshness on them.
Yeah.
So if you don't get a passive check for 5 minutes, you say it sends every 10 minutes. If you go 15 without getting one, you can do what's called a freshness check, which sometimes is just a dummy check that says, hey, this is critical, it's not doing anything. Sometimes you actually send an active check to try and talk to the passive thing. It's hard to exactly gauge the like minute to minute time scale because of the way that film language works.
Yeah.
But I have to assume that, you know, if something's being checked every 5 minutes, and then you've got like 5 retries after a failure till it goes like hard state failure, that's like 10 minutes to know that something is really truly and awfully wrong. That might still be too big of a window. Like some of these things may have actually been able to still execute with monitoring that lax, but they don't have that many distinct objects to monitor, right? There's 2 IT guys. How many computers are on the island? It doesn't seem like enough.
No. And even then, like we also went ahead and created our own XI instance where we could monitor the park, and this is part of what we were looking at. There's a lot to monitor, but also if you organize it, there's not a lot to monitor. So like you can have a smaller IT team help with this, but definitely not. I could say 1.5 people, because it's also not Samuel L. Jackson's job.
Sure, right. He's jumping in.
Yeah.
It's one guy.
Yeah.
There's one IT guy.
Yeah.
And he's trying to steal the IP. He's trying to steal the secret sauce. The secret Barbasol. How do you know who you can trust? Software can't really help you with that. But you should have some redundancy. One IT guy for an island. How many scientists are employed there? Like in the lab scene, how many scientists are in the background?
Oh, there's a lab scene full of them, and there's so many things that they would probably want monitored as well. You think about like the hatchery. You want to monitor, like we set up in our XI instance that the hatchery could monitor like the weight of an egg, so you could see like where in the process they are. We set it up so you could see, you know, where we are in certain growth processes, where we are in certain kind of dinosaur counts. We can chip and tag them so that way if they aren't where they're supposed to be, you'll know where they are, because we have a great feature in a world map. Just saying. Like there was endless. Look, all I'm saying is they spared a lot of expenses that we didn't. Like
we spared no expense. You hired one guy. You hired one guy to do IT. For your multi-billion-dollar dinosaur island park?
You did that, but the branding for the East Dock has never been cleaner.
There's like 20 to 30 scientists, one IT guy.
Yeah.
And presumably, like there's commerce, there's tickets, there's a gift shop, There's all of these systems that aren't even related to the safety and health of the guests that are more related to, sort of doing traditional amusement park things. Those employees aren't even there yet, right? This is like, we're just bringing in the scientists to show it off before the park opens.
Well, it's ridiculous.
Are you going to just have one IT guy that whole time?
They should have just called it. It's not like we don't have clients that work in retail, POS. He's stealing like embryos. Like that's pretty much medical refrigeration. I mean, I'm just saying, like our portfolio speaks for itself. We had it. You should have just not spared that expense.
We spared no expense.
You didn't say the magic word.
Please! Phones are out too.
They would have known about that.
Where did the vehicle stop?
Phones are out internet is out in 1993 for sure.
You're on a remote island too. Like a storm would be able to disrupt that, even from like a satellite perspective. But like, yeah, even in 1993, like when you had exponentially less coverage than you would today, it's absolute expectation. But I do think the win that comes out of this here, though, and it's mentioned in the movie, is that they're running off of Unix, which
of course
speaks Nagios fluently. to put it quite bluntly. I guess the real question I have is maybe scalability here. Like I think Unix is the perfect choice for this. I think where they started in 1993 terms, you could probably do this with like a low-level Nagios license, but as the park kind of matures, you're probably looking at like quite an intense framework. But at the same time, like we scale to grow with an organization that, in this particular instance of this incident was just a test run. So you probably don't need a giant amount of nodes to account for. But as soon as the park opens and you get things like POS and
sure,
and all that kind of stuff and siloed off systems, I guess, what are we thinking in terms of a basic tracker of nodes? And yeah, I get we're not sparing expense, but we did. So
sure. Well, if we're sparing some expense and we're trying to maybe just monitor the things that would prevent sort of the dino-apocalypse, right? Like if we're just like bare minimum, like don't let guests get eaten or trampled or let multi-billion-dollar like biological engineering specimens escape. You could probably get away with like let's see. I'm trying to visualize the map where they show all the fences of the different areas, and then account for some random things, access points on all of them. I bet it's less than 100 nodes.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
sky's the limit.
But if you want to monitor a little bit more than just like don't kill the guests or let the attractions escape, like there's certainly tons of other things that you could get in there, monitor, get useful, trackable, reportable historical data on. That would be useful because your park will be open for decades, making you billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, because who doesn't want to go see the dinosaurs? I do.
Yeah.
But only if I'm not going to die.
Right.
So you'd want to monitor maybe like every single telecommunication hub. I don't know how their local network is set up. Everything's networked though, because he was getting alerts. He was getting some kind of alerts about the fences being down. So all of that is networked together somehow. So you've got to have, telecommunications networking hubs throughout the island. You're going to want to monitor all of those. You're going to want to monitor every enclosed area. You're going to want to monitor every power substation, which I assume there's more than one of. They go to one specifically to like manually reboot the power. But I imagine that there's several nodes. It's not just the one where you got the crank handles, right? There's got to be a couple of those scattered around.
To me, there's also the experience stuff. So I mean, there's a scene where they're in some Ford Explorers that are automatically driving around the park. You're going to want to monitor those. There's several things you're going to look at with those as well. When people open doors and just run out of them to go see Triceratops, for example. Just a random one I made up just now. They've got the little ride where they're going around to go see the lab, and they also, again, just making this up, can break out of that and go see eggs as they hatch in real time. You have all the equipment that the scientists are going for. I think it's a really smart idea to put something in there to access doors everywhere, so that way if someone even pops open the lid to the embryo enclosure, you get temperature changes. You can see weight change if someone's pulling out vials. You can see, there are so many different things that sensors and basically SNMP enabled devices or SNMP traps would just be able to tell you, is it there or is it not?
Yes. Yeah. And it can be outside the box, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a sensor that senses when this thing is open or closed. If it's a temperature controlled environment, it can just be a temperature sensor, right?
Yep.
It's like even in the simple use case of a refrigerator, right? Refrigerator is supposed to operate at the temperature it operates at. If it goes 1, 2, 3 degrees above that, the door's been open too long and someone left it open, right?
Yeah.
Temperature sensor can give you that data without having any kind of actual physical sensor on the door opening.
Yeah.
But also, let's talk about logs. This thought just occurred to me, right? Theoretically, you've got access control management on all of these different areas, right?
Yeah. No expense spared. Obviously.
No expense spared.
So they obviously sprung for it.
That means key passes, right? Access control, a little RFID, scan yourself in.
Yep.
Who is going through what door when? That's log data. That's log data that could be pushed into a Nagios log server instance.
Insane.
And you could have
Wild.
like a minute by minute within a couple seconds of them using the door log of who's going through which access point when. And you would see before you didn't type the magic word, you would see that, oh, it's weird. Why is he in the embryo storage right now?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Wild.
This is outside the time when the scientists are in there. How about I set up an alert if this log gets any activity outside of these hours?
Yep. Super easy.
Super easy. They could have caught him before he got to a Jeep.
Which also should have been monitored.
Oh, yeah.
Roll the next clip.
Will you please shut down the system?
Hold on to your butts.
It's still event handlers. That's the insane thing to me, is that you have this reboot process which involves an electrical panel. Sure.
This is the most extreme version of
Scheduled downtime.
have you tried turning it off and back on again? Because they shut down the power grid of the island and then bring the grid back up to reboot the computer systems. There's got to be an intermediary level here where you don't have to shut the whole power grid down to reboot your computers. Not saying, just saying, that they have the right idea. Turn it off and turn it back on. Great. It's like security locked out. Turn it off, turn it back on. Clear the memory, right? You have to power things down to clear the memory. There's a little bit of capacitance, That's why when you reboot your router, unplug it, and they say count to 10 and then plug it back in, you got to let all of the capacitance in the circuit
Yeah.
get
I get it. But we're just
expended.
a broken record here.
There are so many less extreme things than shut off all the power to the island and then turn it all back on to reboot the computer system.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, like, single point of failure is, like, why is it on the other side of the... Why...
Wait, he flips what looks like 3 giant breakers
if
and
those
then a
things are
4th breaker.
technically talking to each other, you would think if one goes down, it would kick off a handler on the other end so that when it comes back on... No,
Like,
not the case.
Why did shutting it off cause a surge that threw the other breakers? Like, what?
Yeah, but the system is ready.
Have you ever tripped a breaker by turning off a different breaker?
You ever thought about that?
That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
I've never thought critically about exactly this part of the
All
film
right.
before, but
Step 1, get Nagios XI. Step 2, get a fucking electrician. Step 3, plan out your procedures. Oh my God. Get some good software, write some good scripts. I don't know. I don't know.
create documentation. Maybe like write some documentation, because there's one guy knows how the system works, and the other guy whose job it isn't, like, can figure it out because he knows some Unix, right?
My respect for Michael Crichton may implode drastically if I found out he was ever in any logistical kind of role in his life. Because there's no way you could not have not thought about this.
When you're writing fantastical prehistoric fantasy, I don't think that you go...
What is the actual business plan?
Yeah.
Fictional park. What is it? How did we get here? How can this make profit?
Do screenwriters, like, talk to consultants about every role they're writing for the screen? Because these IT guys are kind of unbelievable. I mean, it's more unbelievable that there's only 2 of them. 1.5, right? But
Just saying.
there's a multi-billion-dollar
Just
island,
saying.
and one guy has the
breakers
power
on the
to,
other side.
you didn't say the magic word.
The breakers are on the other side? You invested so much money into this?
Redundancy. It seems like there's not a lot of redundant systems.
No, not at all. The main problem with this entire plot of this fantastic movie, might I add, is that the line, "We've spared no expense," spoken by budget Sean Connery, decides to be played like every 5 minutes. Don't worry, we spared no expense. I can see glaringly where you spared the expense. Oh yeah, the electrical fence. Oh, even better, we gotta restart the power.
Good. Here we go. Over the top.
Billy, you can't throw the main
Is it just me, or does that kid look like his shoulders and hips could fit through the holes in that electric fence?
I've always wondered that. I've always wondered that. And the other thing I've always wondered, which I think could tie into monitoring here, is that I think it says like 10,000 volts. Like, should we... At what point... Like, I get the volts and amps thing. I passed grade 11 physics.
I took chemistry, so
Should we...
actually-
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
yeah.
Amps will murder you.
Okay, yes.
Volts won't. The combination of the two may vary, but that's kind of the basis of it. The amps are the amount that whatever, but the volts is kind of, yeah. Anyways, where I'm going with this is, should we not be monitoring that as well so we don't kill our customers and/or our dinosaurs if they want to test those theories? Because there is, in that classic T-Rex scene, he does test it.
And
All I'm saying is you don't want the dude to test it and it's on and now you don't have a T-Rex.
so the way that electric fences work, like principally in the real world, is that they don't kill you, right? They kind of sting and suck a little bit.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I'm not going to touch that again. And actually, electric fences work on a pulse.
Yes.
Right? So there are moments you can touch it where nothing will happen, but if you keep touching it, you'll get hit with one of the pulses.
Yeah.
So, my lacking of knowledge around volts and amps aside, it's supposed to be painful, not deathful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're on the same page here.
Although, what do you think a T-Rex weighs compared to a person? Quite a lot.
Quite a lot.
So the difference in current that's going to be required to kind of suck versus what would kill you, there might be some overlap there.
All right.
With what would contain a T-Rex but kill a person.
I'll concede that. Yeah, I guess for me, it's also something you could set with basic monitoring, like sensors and tools. You should be able to set like critical and warning thresholds to at least make sure the maintenance of your fences are what they should be.
Sure. Yeah, you should probably get an alert if say like short to ground, for instance.
Yeah. Just a quick thought. Yeah.
It's a Unix system. I know this. It's all the files in the whole park. It tells you everything. I had to find the right file.
What is she doing though? Playing The Sims? Look at this! Sim City Park Edition.
This is it. This might be the right file.
Come on! Idiot, just read! It's a visitor center! No, the 3D interface drives me insane beyond all else. The fact that you have to play Sim Cities to get to the visitor center to whatever. However, watching it this time, I will give bonus points. You didn't access things by just... She actually used a mouse, which I don't think I've seen very often in a lot of computer-centric Hollywood scenes.
Sure. Well, and Hollywood is not known for their technical accuracy in these matters, particularly.
I mean, that is why we're here.
Yeah. Well, there'd be no bit if they did it better.
Thank you, Spielberg.
You've given us ammunition for the bit. Everything for the bit. No, so this graphical user interface that she's using, right? She sits down and she stares at this interface, which doesn't exist. It's not real. It's proprietary, right? If it is real in the world of Jurassic Park,
I get where you're going.
It's 100% proprietary. Yeah. Someone programmed it for their network and their systems. So for her to sit down and look at this bonkers graphical user interface and say, this is a Unix system, I know this, is insane. It's absolutely, if it was Unix, it would be a terminal with text.
Yeah.
100% of the time. Especially in the early 90s. It would be a terminal with text. Navigating the directory like she did, you'd be using the change directory command and typing change directory like /
visitors. It's so painful.
And the mouse would do nothing. There's no graphical interface in Unix at this time, right? Like in general.
No. But I mean, it feels like I feel like this is just a case for event handlers. If you know it's a kick off the script.
If you have to move the mouse through this little virtual Sim City and click visit, all she did was click visitor center and then
everything went on.
Click it again and it reset it.
Yeah.
That could have just been a script that
she clicked on some wrong stuff. So my question is, what did she turn off?
Maybe like the carnivore feeding mechanism just
probably that actually sets up the end of the movie quite well. She accidentally turned the T-Rex paddock back off, and that's why he's in the visitor center at the very end. It's all making sense now. Spielberg, you've done it again.
You're a genius.
Well, I think that's pretty much all we could have done. Like we are
Just
they,
like-
they've rebooted it. I think we could have stopped this before it even started, but pretty much event handlers, be redundant, hire more people, and just don't spare this expense. I think is kind of where we're at the end of the day. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I think we've prevented dinosaur mayhem on this round, but if you want to see more content like this, please comment on what movies, TV shows, any bit of pop culture you'd like to see us disastrously prevent. I mean, we could do anything from The Matrix, Die Hard, The Net, Speed, you name it. We could probably figure out how Nagios could have stopped it. Edge of Tomorrow. I could keep going with insane films that we probably could not have stopped, but maybe we could have.
It's fun
Okay.
to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything that you noticed that we might have missed that could have been helped, prevented, or mitigated with a little bit of monitoring and oversight, comment about it.
Yeah, honestly. And if you enjoyed this kind of content and you want to see more like it, just make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're getting all the notifications to us. We love teaching you guys about what Nagios can do, whether it be in the real world or helping fixing some of those fictional ones. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button. We got some more content like this, as well as some very helpful tutorial videos and just more know-how on how you can properly monitor your infrastructure. Thank you so much again for tuning in with us. And we'll leave you and your dinosaur movie watching experience in peace.